Hi everyone, it's Tamara here for lalalandcrafts with another card making tutorial. This week I'm using the gorgeous image Pumpkin Spice Marci. I'll be doing some Copic colouring of Marci, an ink blended background using one of our stencils, and a simple card making tutorial. So I've grabbed out the pumpkin layering stencil. So there's two parts, the actual pumpkins themselves and then also the stems that come out of the top. I've pre-cut a piece of white smooth cardstock to use to make sure it's a big enough size for my panel to fit over the top. So I've put a little bit of adhesive to the bottom of my Make Art station, and just using the magnets I'm just going to stick that pumpkin layering stencil down first. I'll be using the Distress Oxides, Wild Honey and Spice Marmalade. So I'll go in with the Wild Honey first to create a full base layer. I'm just using an actual blending brush for this because it just gets in there a lot easier to get into all those nooks and crannies of these pumpkins. And then I'm using a smaller detail blending brush to add the Spice Marmalade, just to create a little bit of dimension and a little bit of interest to our pumpkin layer. So you could also do different colors on each of the pumpkins or do it in sections, but I just thought adding this little bit of Spice Marmalade will just give that kind of a little bit of a shadow down the bottom of each of those pumpkins. And then I just use a smaller blending brush and that Wild Honey just to blend out that Spice Marmalade so that we've got a nice smooth blend between the two colors. So just make sure you don't blend too much because you want to make sure that there is that difference between the two colors of your layer. So just work in circular motions to smooth that out. And then we'll pull off the stencil and show you the reveal. So I've grabbed out some forest moss to just add the stems. I'm only just going in with the forest moss. They're only quite small, so I didn't feel that they needed any extra color for dimension, and using another blending brush to get into those little spots as well. So I've made sure that I've got all my ones covered, and we'll set that aside to dry. So now I'll just turn on some music while I do the Copic colouring of Pumpkin Spice Marci. Okay, our background panel is now dry, so I'm just going to trim that down to size. So I'll just trim it along this side, and then it will measure 4.5 inches by 5.5 inches. So I'll trim up the top and then to size along this side, and we'll just set that aside. Now I'm just going to use some white cardstock and the inverted scalloped rectangles to create a frame. So I am going to create the same size white panels by 3, and they're going to measure 3 inches by 4.25. So I've cut 3 of those to be exactly the same size. Now I'm going to center the inverted scalloped rectangles die in the center. So I'm going to grab out some purple tape. So this is low tack tape to hold this in place. Initially I'm just going to eyeball where it will be sitting, and then I'll grab out my T ruler and just make sure I've got it even on all sides. So I think I've got it pretty much right on each of the sides, and we'll measure top and bottom, and that's correct as well. So I'll grab out our die cutting machine and run that first panel through. So I'm just going to slot the top panel in place and run that through the die cutting machine. And now we've got our perfect scallop frame. Now I'm going to use that initial frame that I've cut out to be my guide on my 2 other panels. So I'm just going to line that up, and using that same purple tape, I'm just going to seal them together just at the top, and then I can put the actual inverted rectangle die in the center, and that will cut it at exactly the same spot for both the other 2 frames. So running that through my die cutting machine, and now we've got 2 perfectly sized inverted scallop frames, and I'll do that for the 3rd one off camera. Now I wanted to add some foliage. I'll try and say that 10 times fast. And I'm going to be using the olive branches die to cut out a couple of branches to go at the top of my card. And I'm going to be just using similar colors to what I've colored up Pumpkin Spice Marci. So I've kind of got this green color. I'm going to cut 2 out of that, and then I'm going to cut 1 out of orange. So now I'm just going to get those inverted scalloped frames put together. So just lining them up and making sure they're even on all sides. Get another layer of glue down, and we'll get that top layer on. And now our scallop frame is all ready to go onto our card front. Now you can see how much dimension you get just stacking those 3 frames together. I've now pre-cut and scored a white card base, and I will have all the measurements in the description box below for you. And we'll just get our ink blended pumpkin panel attached to the front, and then we'll grab our frame die and get that centered to the front of the card as well. So just making sure that it's even on both sides and top and bottom, and that it is sitting straight there. So give that a good press down once you're happy with the position. With the olive branches, I'm just going to have them kind of sitting behind Marci, so we'll have her kind of stuck in the front for where they sit against that frame. And I'm just going to have the 2 green with the orange in the middle, and it just matches perfectly in with our color scheme for our pumpkins, and also how we colored Pumpkin Spice Marci, and just working out where I'm going to have that sentiment sitting. So I'll just working out where I need to add my glue, because it will obviously only be sitting on some parts of that frame and offset on the others. So we'll just add a little bit where it touches that frame there. We'll get our orange leaf on next. So most of that is sitting over that frame, so we can put on quite a bit of glue on that one. And then we'll finish off with our final. I just had a bit too much glue there, so I just wiped it off. And we'll put our final branch on there. Again, only adding some glue to the sections that will sit on that frame or on the other leaves. So I've got that attached now, and we'll just pop a little bit of glue where that touches on that frame just there. Now I'm going to line up Marci. Some of her will be partially sitting over the frame and others hanging off. So I'm just going to grab out some foam squares and just attach them to the sections that will be sitting over that frame. and then the other part where it will be sitting on the frame itself, we'll pop on a little bit of glue. I always find it's easier to put the glue on the actual frame itself rather than put it on Marci, and that way you know that you're getting it in the right spot. So I'm just working out where she's going to sit. Pop a little bit of glue in that spot. I've removed all the release paper from the foam tape, and just using my tweezers will get her lined up on the bottom of that card. And with the pumpkin spice sentiment, there's two little edges that I'll put some foam squares, and then we'll put a little bit of glue again where that's going to sit over that frame. So again, popping it on the frame itself, and we'll just get that sentiment lined up and make sure it's nice and straight. We'll just press that down in the middle where it will sit on that glue, and make sure it was just a little bit down on that side, and give that a good press. And this is the finished card for this week's tutorial. Pumpkin Spice Marci is just so gorgeous. I just love colouring her up in these fall colours, and it matched in perfectly with that pumpkins layering stencil. I hope you've enjoyed this card making tutorial. If you have, please hit the like button, and if you'd like to see any future videos, please hit the subscribe button. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.